Most FPV videos focus on the drone itself, but did you know there are some mistakes you might be making that could cost you hundreds of dollars? Many new pilots get their start by searching mistakes beginners make while flying FPV drones. While it's definitely a good idea to be familiar with these mistakes, and I'll be making a video on that pretty soon, it overlooks a whole other part of FPV. The gear. Gear is a vital and expensive part of FPV, and there's a lot of really strange ways you can damage it. Today we're gonna cover 7 crucial mistakes that can ruin your gear, including one really annoying one that happened to me. Let me start off by asking you a question. Are you the type of person that folds your laundry as soon as it comes out of the dryer, or do you just throw it on the bed and deal with it later? If you're the second type of person, like me, this first mistake may apply to you. That mistake is storing your gear improperly. Don't get me wrong, I understand where you're coming from. We spend all day thrashing our drone, and at the end of a session, you just want to put your gear away, deal with it later. However, our drones are built to be tough. They're built to take impacts. Our gear is made of delicate electronics. It's not made to be thrown around. Most people store their FPV gear in a dedicated backpack like this one. However, if you are keeping your gear inside, you want to make sure it doesn't have any room to move around. Even tiny movements over time can lead to damages. For instance, on these goggles here, the lenses got scratched by the strap itself. Now I protect the goggles by wrapping it with a spare bandana I have. I also used to store my radio with the antenna attached inside the backpack until one time I took the radio out and the antenna was broken. I'm lucky it was just the antenna that was broken and not the radio itself. Now every time I put the radio into the bag, I take the antenna off and I put this red cap on the SMA connector to protect it. An even better idea would be to store it in a hard case like this one. Now all that is to say, you should take a little bit of time every time to put your gear away properly, and you'll avoid breaking it in dumb ways. This next mistake is one that is so costly. Some people say if it happens to you, it will blow up your radio. That mistake is powering on your radio without plugging in your antenna. Can you imagine trying to fly FPV on a swing set with the goggles on? Talk about motion sick.
Okay, I'm going to throw up. I'm throwing up. You're making me throw up.
Now this is one of those risks that's probably been overstated online. In fact, I myself have turned on a radio without installing the antenna, albeit briefly, and it still works fine. However, Radio Master themselves have a sticker on the radio saying do not power on without installing the antenna, so it's definitely something you should be aware of. We pump a lot of power through our antennas, so if you don't have one installed, all that power has nowhere to go. It just circulates inside the radio, and it can actually burn out elements inside. While it's probably not going to blow up like some people say it will, it can permanently damage your radio over time. Make sure you install your antenna. Speaking of radios, your radio is a delicate electronic instrument. It's the lifeblood between you and your drone, and if you drop it or damage it, that drone could fall out of the air randomly. Mistake number 3 is being too rough with your radio. Now it's really easy to damage your radio, especially if you're a pincher, so I'd highly suggest picking up a lanyard. Now I went a long time without buying one because I'm a cheap ass, but once I finally picked one up for $8, I found my flying actually improved a bunch. Lanyards allow you to focus 100% on stick movements and not actually holding your radio up. If you do need to set your radio down, set it down gently or maybe put it in the grass somewhere. Don't throw it across the room. This isn't Call of Duty. Treat your radio gently. You probably already know that LiPo batteries can be dangerous, but they're also sensitive little guys. They like to be in a very specific voltage range, but not for too long. The voltage a normal charged LiPo likes to stay at is from 3.5 volts per cell to 4.2 volts per cell. However, if that charged battery is going to sit on the shelf for longer than 2 days unused, it needs to be discharged down to 3.8 volts per cell. That's a ton to keep track of, and that's why mistake number 4 is mishandling your batteries. Now, batteries are a really dense subject, so if you'd like to do a deep dive on it, maybe let me know in the comments below, and perhaps we can cover that in a future video. The basics are you never want to charge your battery above 4.2 volts per cell, and you never want to discharge it below 3.5 volts per cell. If you bring it down below 3 volts per cell, that's probably a dead battery, so you definitely want to avoid that. A lot of people will get around the storage voltage thing by flying until they get to about 3.7 volts per cell. Then when they land and disconnect the battery, it'll naturally settle up at about 3.8 volts per cell. I mean, if that's what it takes to get you at storage voltage, then maybe do that. But otherwise, you can just use your battery charger to bring it to storage voltage. Since we're on the topic of batteries, this next mistake may be the dumbest way to destroy a battery, and that's not tucking away your balance lead. Isn't this just the most beautiful light right now? I can't get over it. This may be one of those things that seems obvious in hindsight, but if your propeller can reach your balance lead, it's probably gonna chop it at some point. Our drones go through all types of crazy G-forces, so you can guarantee that that balance lead will hit that propeller at some point. It may take some experimenting, but just find the best way to tuck your balance lead so it's protected from moving around. Balance leads are all but impossible to replace. Basically, if you chop a balance lead off, you might as well just replace the battery because it's a pain in the ass to replace. Now don't get lazy. The one time you don't tuck your balance lead away is the one time it's gonna get stuck by the propeller. So just find a good method that always works and do it every single time. Now if you made it this far, be sure and subscribe. We're building a really cool community here and I'm thrilled to have you all along for the ride. All right, let's go fly. Okay, that's 5 mistakes down, which means only 2 are left, and I've saved the 2 most expensive ones for last. Be sure to stick around for the very last one because I've had people say they don't even think that it happens. Trust me, it happens because it happened to me. Okay, let's go check out this new spot. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the whole reason I got into FPV in the first place is for the incredible cinematic footage. There are definitely some occasions where just recording to your VTX is probably good enough, but if you want the best footage possible, you're gonna need an action camera like this. Action cameras are really pricey nowadays, and I've had them break in a bunch of weird ways, like getting shook in my bag or accidentally dropping it on the ground, let alone when you're learning how to do ridiculous stuff like this. Yeah, maybe ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun. Let me know if you want a tutorial on how to do that safely. Action cameras are pretty durable nowadays, but they can only do so much. The next mistake is not putting a screen protector on your action camera. While a screen protector won't protect your action camera completely, it will buy you a little bit of extra protection. After all these cracks you see would have been cracks to the screen itself. It would also be a good idea to have a case for your action camera. But Daniel, you don't have a case for your action camera. Well, you know what? You're right. I've ordered a case and it's coming in soon. Way back in 2022, I was a wide-eyed and green young FPV pilot. I picked up my very first bind and fly drone from a Facebook marketplace deal, and I was so excited to fly it that I flew 5 packs a day for an entire month. However, over that time, I was damaging my goggles and I didn't even realize it. What I didn't realize at the time is every time I went to change one of those 5 batteries, I would put my goggles down on the ground. Sometimes those goggles would point at the sun. I don't know if you realize this, but the lenses on your goggles are magnifying glasses that focus directly on the screen. Every time those goggles pointed at the sun, I was burning a hole in my screen. That's why the final mistake is pointing your goggles at the sun. Now, it's easy to forget about your goggles, especially if you just crashed or if you've been flying all day, but just make a habit to never point those lenses towards the sun. You've seen how I protect mine by wrapping it in the bandana. Some lenses have like specialized covers, but I find the bandana works well enough for me. Admittedly, it's not that much damage, but it would be a ton of money if I wanted to fix it. If I kept those goggles pointed at the lens for much longer though, it could have become a huge problem. It is definitely annoying, but not so annoying that I want to pay to fix it. And those are the 7 ways to accidentally destroy your drone gear. So what do you think? Did I leave any out? If so, leave a comment below. And if you've made it this far, be sure to subscribe. In the meantime, check out this video for some beginner tips, and check out this video if you want to learn to build a drone. All right, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.